Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Lincoln Riley, the USC Trojans, set to hold yet another massive recruiting weekend this weekend on campus. We hopped on late last week and talked about a visitor list last weekend that was absolutely loaded. You fast forward to this weekend, it might even be a more impressive visitor list this weekend. And I am a massive fan of what this new USC staff is doing on the recruiting trail. I want to talk about a few prospects that are really jumping out to me early in this 2025 cycle. Really excited to get into this one. Many of you guys who've been listening for a long time know this is one of my favorite aspects of college football, diving into these recruiting classes, talking about these high school prospects and how they project to the next level. Excited to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. And it has truly been a blast covering the recruiting trail, covering the transfer portal the last couple of weeks. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, enjoy the updates, consider subscribing to the channel. We will be continuing to break down USC and what they're doing on the recruiting trail for the next couple of months. And without further ado, let's get into the visitor list this weekend. And it's highlighted by a 2024 prospect who was previously signed to the Washington Huskies, and he gets released from his national letter of intent as Kalen DeBoer leaves the program. Ratumana Bulavu. And this is a guy that, we talk about traits at that edge rusher position. This is a guy that, the traits are certainly there. 6'4", 260, shows some really nice burst and bend as an edge rusher, can also move on the inside. I want to talk about the productivity at the high school level. This is one of the more impressive stat sheets that I've seen as a junior in high school. Led the state of California with 23.5 sacks, also had 30 tackles for a loss in that junior campaign, over 50 sacks during his career at the high school level. And this is a conversation that we have a lot, right? It is nice to talk about the physical traits and the raw athleticism that these prospects are bringing to the next level. But many of you guys know I also want to see the high school production. What does it look like? Can you translate all that athletic talent to the football field? What does it look like when the pads and the helmets come on? And a guy like Ratumana Bulavu is a guy that is an absolute game record. Just lives in the backfield again, 50-plus sacks during his career at the high school level, another 50-plus tackles for a loss. He's a penetrator. He's a really fluid athlete for his size, a guy that you can do a lot with in terms of the versatility. You can play him at that 5-tech. You could probably put some weight on him, playing him at that 3-tech on the inside. Love the versatility, love the production at the high school level. And it sounds like this one is largely coming down to USC and Utah, right? Visiting Utah right now will be at USC this weekend, and this one going to have to wrap up in the next couple of weeks as he kind of signs that letter of intent, decides where he's going in that 2024 class. Now, you fast forward to the 2025 class, and this is where USC is looking to get busy. The first guy I want to talk about, there's a 7-on-7 tournament in LA this weekend. Khilkhik Lockett, a guy that when watching, I would encourage all USC fans to just go turn on the film for a couple minutes. I was planning on doing a little film eval, writing down some notes. I ended up watching him for 30-plus minutes. One of the more impressive film studies to do. 6'2", 175. What he has in terms of ball skills, body control, vertically down the field, when that football is in the air, this is a guy that is about as comfortable as I've seen a high school prospect tracking the football, making a play on the football. He's a guy that has a track background, runs well vertically, but the thing that stands out to me the most is what he can do vertically down the field. And we talk about this all of not only hitting those explosive plays, but having a guy on offense that can make opposing teams respect what you're doing down the field to kind of open up stuff underneath. Lockett is a guy that you talk about attacking that deeper third. That is exactly what you're getting from the high 4-star top 15 national prospect in this 2025 class. Dynamic wide receiver. As a Michigan fan, we're also in on it for him. One of the more coveted wide receivers that we'll see in this 2025 class, getting a look at USC. The next position I want to go to, and this is a position that we continue to kind of talk about as being a top priority for the USC Trojans, and that is the defensive line, right? Moving to the Big Ten, you want to make sure you have these kind of bodies to kind of translate to the Big Ten. Myron Charles from Port Charlotte, Florida, is one of those guys that you kind of just feel USC needs more of these kind of bodies. And watching the film on Myron Charles, just extremely violent football player. He comes off the ball extremely well for someone 295 pounds, uses his hands well, but most importantly, plays with low pads. I mean, you see a lot of these really big athletes on the defensive line just kind of stand straight up and just use that size and athleticism to win. Myron Charles stays with that low pad level, just absolutely blows up offensive linemen, is a phenomenal athlete when he gets in the backfield. You'll see him kind of move laterally, make plays in the backfield, have really good closing speed on the quarterback. You talk about a disruptor. Talk about a guy that kind of lives in opponents' backfields and a guy that USC sorely needs on the defensive line. Myron Charles, after watching his film late last night, is certainly a guy that I'm extremely excited about for potentially going to this USC team in that 2025 class. A couple more names that really popped out to me. One, Marco Jones from the state of California. And one, we talk heavily about USC getting it going back, recruiting that state of California. And a guy like Marco Jones, really, really exciting prospect, plays a lot of off-ball linebacker at the high school level. I see him more as an edge rusher at the next level, right? 6'5", 230 pounds. You'll see him used in a vast amount of ways. And Marco Jones is a guy that at 6'5", 230, you'll see him drop back in coverage and be very comfortable carrying tight ends up the seam, matching up in man coverage, sitting back in those zone coverage. He is a very fluid athlete for 6'5", 230. But you kind of look at the projection and what he might look like as he steps foot on a college campus. He's probably going to be a guy that could be 6'5", 250 pounds. And when you see him line up as an edge rusher, he still has that fluid movement skill. And the guy that the size that he has and the length that he has in arms, coupled with kind of how fluid of a mover he is and the twitch that he has, that's probably what excites me most about him projecting as an edge rusher. And again, right now, 6'5", 230, yeah, maybe a linebacker body right now, but what does it look like at the end of his senior year? What does it look like at the beginning of his senior year? I see this guy much more as an edge rusher, but wherever you decide to play him, you're getting a versatile chess piece for this USC defense and a guy that, again, has some traits that you can't really teach at that level. Very, very excited about Marco Jones. Last guy I want to talk about, another versatile kind of chess piece player on the defensive side of the football, and that's Noah McHale. Again, from the state of California, plays all sorts of roles on that defense, also plays a little bit of offense. And I think the narrative that I have for him, he's a very fluid athlete who you'll see play that deeper third as a safety. You'll see him walk up as a backer. You'll see him blitz off the edge. When I first watched him, I thought a little bit of Tackett Curtis, right? That kind of rangy safety that can kind of play in the box, go sideline to sideline. But what I think makes him a little bit more of an attractive prospect than a guy like Tackett Curtis is, not only is he a very explosive linear athlete, but he's very fluid too. Tackett Curtis at times, yes, when he's going downhill, blowing up blockers, kind of block destruction, that's when Tackett Curtis really was successful. But when it came to making plays in space and being a fluid athlete, tackling in space, that's where Tackett Curtis really did struggle, right? A guy like Noah McHale, yes, he is very linear, can be very explosive downhill, but is a guy that is more fluid, has the ability to change direction, can match up in man coverage, can make tackles in space, has a lot of the traits that Tackett Curtis did, and kind of, quite frankly, plays a very similar style of that bruising, heavy hitting, kind of a chess piece defender, if you will, but a guy that just seems a little bit more fluid, a little bit more light on his feet. And again, that was the biggest concern you had with Tackett Curtis as a true freshman for the USC Trojans. A bunch of other guys that will be on campus for USC this weekend. These are some of the top names that I'll be keeping an eye on. But I think what I'm most impressed with is how quickly this USC staff, specifically on the defensive side of the football, has hit the trail, made some relationships with these prospects, and are getting guys on campus. That is hard to do in terms of when you're replacing your whole defensive coaching staff. You got to rebuild all those relationships with these 2025 kids. And I think guys like Coach Henderson, Coach Danton Lynn have done a phenomenal job building these relationships, getting these guys back on campus. Really excited for what the spring and summer months are going to hold for the USC Trojans on the recruiting trail. Going to look a little bit different, but I think it's going to be effective. We'll continue to cover. We'll continue to monitor it. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.